All right, it's 10 o'clock, so we'll start this week's long coffee break. Welcome, everyone. My name's Austin Whiteley. I'm a project manager here at Long out of our Fort Collins office. Today, we have Peter Cedargreen. He's our Dyken West Regional Sales Manager. He is here to discuss the changes to the EPA refrigerant requirements, as well as the timeline for these changes for the state of Colorado and how Dyken will be addressing these changes. Peter, take it away.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking a few minutes out this morning. I'm going to try to cover a lot of information that we usually take about 60 to 90 minutes, and I'm going to try to condense some key bullet points and cover some important information in a very condensed amount of time. By no means do I expect you guys to walk away and have a clear and concise, because this is an ongoing and ever-changing, the refrigerant process is ever-changing. But I do want to give you at least some key dates and some good information, a little bit of history here. So, all right, Austin, if you go to the next slide for me. Guys, just a history of me, and my mug there, you can see me here. I'm a West Coast Regional Sales Manager for Dyken Applied. I pretty much handle all of the West Coast reps, obviously with Long being one of them. I've been with Dyken now a little over, or almost 5 years. It'll be 5 years in March, and I've been in the HVAC industry for about 18 years. Guys, as I said earlier, I'm going to try to take a bunch of information that we have put together and been giving this presentation, but at least give you a little bit of just a quick blip of the reason for change, the EPA rulings, the impact and timeline for Colorado, as well as I'm going to kind of let you kind of see how things are for the United States, give you some idea on some replacement refrigerants for R134a and R410A, and why we chose to go that route. And then obviously just kind of a summary on what we've talked about, and then some key links for additional information. So guys, this started out, as many of you may recall in that picture down on the lower left there, and that's a picture of the ozone layer. So back in the 80s, late 80s, they got together and put together something called the Montreal Protocol. And the Montreal Protocol basically just said, we're going to stop the use of HCFCs and CFCs in order to stop the hole in the ozone. And really what they were going to do, as they got rid of those, then they're going to switch those over to HFCs, and other high global warming potential refrigerants. So we basically were getting rid of one problem, moving forward into another problem. The picture there in the middle is a picture of the greenhouse gas effect. Now, we need a certain amount of greenhouse gases so we don't all freeze. Fast forward a bit to 2015 and different things that had been going on in the world. We had the Paris Agreement. And the Paris Agreement was quite simple. It just said, we want to limit the rise of the Earth's temperature, surface temperature, 2 degrees Celsius. Didn't tell you how, it just gave us, this is a baseline, this is what we want to do. Due to the success of the Montreal Protocol, the same members got together and put together the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. And in essence, what that said is now we want to get rid of, or we are going to start phasing out the use of HCFCs and high GWP refrigerants and go closer to zero ODP and lower GWP refrigerants. Go to the next slide for me, please. Now, while the United States was not part of the Paris Agreement, we did come up with something that's very similar called the AMAC, which pretty much mirrors the Kigali Amendment. And it basically just said, here's where we are, and here are our goals in order to phase down. So we have baselines. And so what we have here is we don't really have telling us how we're going to do it, but we do have baselines of where we want to get and timelines. And then it's kind of left up to the members and how we're going to get there. Now, as you're going to see on the next slide, and it is not necessarily the best way because it's somewhat convoluted. Certain states have jumped in and started to enact things sooner, with California and CARB being one of the first. Excuse me. But here recently, and you're going to see some of this information that's here on the lower right corner and the next slide as well, but this is really the crux of this presentation. But in mid-December of last year, the EPA published a proposed technology transition rulemaking. It's not finalized, but the finalization is supposed to come out in 23. And as you can see, I mean, there's a lot that has been going on prior to today, prior to this coming out, because we know that this is coming. We've had the Montreal Protocol, we've had the Kigali Amendment, and then we've had the Paris Agreement. We know that there is going to be a phase down of HCFCs. So what the EPA came out and said, they have set a 700 GWP global warming potential limit for all new equipment. They've given us domestic installation deadlines based on domestic manufacturing dates. And you can see those here. Can we go to the next slide, please? So kind of back to what I mentioned earlier, you can see this is the United States, and you can see all the different states and kind of where things are right now based off of what has been happening. And certain states have taken on different timelines. As I mentioned earlier, California really was one of the first to get into this with CARB, and they pretty much set out and said, listen, we're going to limit refrigerants to 750 GWP. They gave timelines of January 2023 for PTACs and window ACs, January of 2020 or January 1 of 24 for chillers, and 25 for direct HVAC and other VRF, and then 26 for VRF. The state I live in Washington State. I'm based out of Seattle, Washington. We basically have mirrored California as well, and we're going to follow those dates. We're following pretty much what California and those dates. You can see your home state of Colorado there is in light green. So what Colorado has adopted is SNAP Rules 20 and 21. And basically SNAP Rule 21 has to do with comfort cooling chillers. So Colorado, light green state, you have basically said that you will no longer be able to sell or comfort cooling chillers after January 1 of 2024. Now, that does leave you, it does not ban you for chillers used in industrial process and cooling applications or the use of direct HVAC. Next slide, please. So what I tried to do is take kind of the last two slides and put it in a very concise and clean way. Again, January 1, 2024, chillers for comfort cooling that use R134a and R410 will be banned for the state of Colorado. Process cooling is allowed. January 1 of 2025, the end of industrial process chillers and direct systems using R134a and R410a, in January 1 of 2026 DRB. Give you a little bit of just kind of an understanding of where some of the refrigerants that you're going to be hearing about. Now, as it applies to Daikin Applied, we have chosen for a R410A replacement to use R32. Now, as you can see, R32 is an A2L, so it's not an A2, but it's an A2L, so it has lower flammability. Other refrigerants that you may be hearing about too, the R134b, as you can see, they're all falling into the A2L category. I'm going to show you here on the reason why this is going to be important as well. So kind of one thing to understand here, typically the lower GWP, it increases the flammability. So as you can see in the A1 category, R134a, it's an A1, 513A, but R410A and R134a, the two kind of dominant refrigerants that we're using, they're all A1s. So as we're moving forward, because the two refrigerants that we're looking at, the one to replace R134a is the 1234ZE, and then R32 to replace R410. Next slide, please. So this goes to show you, and this is again the United States, showing you which states right now have adopted and we can use the A2L refrigerants. As you can see, in fact, just recently Colorado made that list. So we're good with moving forward with R32 and the 134ZE in the state of in the state of Colorado. The one thing here obviously is a couple things to take away from this slide. California, the largest state, or one of the largest states, and kind of, if you think about it, they're almost their own financial mecca. They have not approved the use of A2Ls yet, but we believe that that's just a formality and it's forthcoming. And another thing you can see here, there are a lot of states within the United States that have not adopted that yet, but yet the EPA has pretty much set out dates to fall into. And so there is going to be a lot of these, I mean, these states are changing almost by the day. Next slide, please. The reason we've come, as Daikin has decided to move forward to replace R410A with R32 is it is a proven refrigerant. It's used globally. It's been used in countries all around the world for years. There are already 190 million plus units being used by OEMs, 120 countries. So we believe it's a very safe, it's a proven, perfect refrigerant to move forward with. Uh-oh. Unfortunately, part of this slide, oh, can you go? Yeah, part of the slide got removed. Yeah, I wish we could show that because it does show you the GWP of R410A, and I believe, I can't remember off the top of my head. But one of the reasons we have moved to R32 is it's I think GWP of about 675. It is a very efficient refrigerant. In fact, it's about 3 to 5% more efficient. So although it is classified as 675 GWP, the actual effective GWP on it is closer to 475 just due to its efficiency. 454B, I believe, is even less. It's probably like 450, 425. Again, it's another refrigerant you're going to be hearing about, but R32, it's a pure refrigerant. It's been around for years. It's very proven. Next slide, please. Perfect here. In fact, that last slide there would have showed you something very similar to this. So currently we have, Daikin Applied has a replacement for 134A with 513A. Again, it is a lower GWP compared to 134A at 631. It is a blend. It is, unfortunately though, it is not, we lose efficiency and we lose some capacity with refrigerant, but it is something we can move forward with today on both our screw and our centrifugal compressors. Big picture wise though, long term, we believe we'll be going with the 1234ZE. Again, it is, I mean, from a GWP, again, it is an A2L, good efficiency, but we do lose capacity. So we believe this is a long-term choice for us. Next slide, please. Again, just a little bit of summary, again, taking a bunch of information. We know the transition is underway. It has been underway for years. The reason why the OEMs have been working on new compressors using new refrigerants. We've got replacements currently for 134A today with 513A. 410, Daikin Applied has chosen to go with R32. We believe it is the absolute right choice. It's proven, it's been around already. Most of the country, United States, is moving forward to being able to use an A2L. It's a proven refrigerant, and we will, we're moving full steam ahead with that. Again, the key important dates are 1/1/24 for comfort cooling chillers that use 134A and 410A. Still can use process chillers and direct HVAC till 1/1/25, and then VRV of 1/1/26. Next slide, please. So while again, a ton of information in a very brief amount of time. So what I would ask you to do is, if here's a list of different sites you can go to for other information, I would also ask, again, if you have questions, comments, concerns, maybe Peter's presentation it left me with more questions than it did answers, please reach out to Long and your dedicated sales engineer, and I'd be more than happy to either get with them or they can answer questions. But what we really wanted to do this morning was kind of let you know what's going on in the world, how is it affecting Colorado, and how Long is prepared to help you solve these the upcoming changes in refrigerant with Daikin Applied. So again, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for attending, and thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate you taking the time. For everyone, I'm sure there's a lot of questions on this stuff. So if you would like this slide of these links to get some more information, please reach out to me or your salesman. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we will see you next week.